We return now to the most mysterious and illuminating aspect of lucid dreaming the wild way. Something which appears to be totally lacking in Dills, but ever present almost from the beginning with Wilds. The arriving at a place or dark void in awareness, where we then begin to know things and thus even more amazing possibilities begin to exist. This is something that I am at a loss to fully explain, apart from the observation that it is a seemingly consistent feature of wilding, the very strange awareness of being in a darkened void, plus that of then being in several places at once, either singularly or even all at the same time. So how does this start? Well, when wilding, there's a typical reaction at first to enter into the dream state and immediately be bounced straight back out again. This is because at first we're not used to this sudden transition from one state of being into another, and we very naturally have an emotional reaction to this that results in us getting booted out. Fortunately, that's okay, as it takes only a few experiences of this being bounced to make the required internal adjustments needed, and then the dreams automatically begin to last a little longer each time. This is also a very good experience, because each time we go from one state to the other and back again, we cross over an area that's actually very interesting. It's a kind of dark void or midway point that seemingly exists somewhere between these two different states. At first, newbies won't notice this midway point area at all. All they're initially thinking about at this time is getting into a full lucid dreaming situation, so that's what happens to them every time. Once you get more used to these changes of awareness, however, we begin then to notice this dark area, which often appears to us at first as being in a lucid dream and then everything going black just before waking up in bed again. Many have even noticed this darkening effect during their ordinary dream-induced, dilled dreams as well. That just before they woke up from their lucid dream, everything went completely black, and as such, have subsequently learned to associate this darkening with the process of waking up from a dream. This, however, is not the full truth of the matter. Yes, crossing that dark void is and can be part of the process of waking, but it is actually also part of the process of entering into a lucid dream as well, and because in truth we cross this midway point each and every time we either enter into or out of the dreaming state. So what then is this darkened area or dark void then that we cross every time, and how important is it? Well, experienced wilders eventually come to realize that this midway point is actually crucial to their endeavors, in that it's actually possible to balance oneself at the midway point and operate from there. The results of doing this are not only amazing, but are also completely astounding. It thus takes a little practice to be able to first isolate this midway point, and then to be able to stand there for any length of time in order to probe and explore it. Some people may discover it more quickly than others, but every wilder discovers it eventually. Once you've isolated it, however, you can then begin to understand it and all the rather marvelous things you will then be able to do from that point of view. The first of which is the most easiest entry into a full lucid dreaming situation that you can ever imagine. Just the thought alone of entering into a lucid dream from the point of view of that midway point has the immediate effect of putting you there. The same applies to wanting to being back in bed. Just want to do so, and it immediately happens. At this point, the experienced wilder can now quite fully and deliberately choose to be either laying in bed, being in a full wild, and or that of standing at the midway point. But once they've learned to do that, something very strange and exciting then begins to happen. You will begin to notice that if you shift your point of view between these 2 or 3 perspectives rapidly enough, it's as though you're actually in both or even all 3 places at the same time. This is very strange indeed, but is also fascinating. The fact is, once someone can stand at that midway point, all kinds of incredible perceptual tricks suddenly become available to them. Not only that, but they can also now literally lucid dream at will and on demand from just the mere thought alone of doing so. Choice, like never before, has now come into the whole thing. Even more astounding still, you will then begin to know things. For example, although it isn't exactly the same for everyone, once you are standing at the midway point, you will then begin to understand things in a very different and illuminating manner. Some inner part of yourself will become active and will then begin to provide you with a great feeling of confidence and ease, and you will simply then begin to know things. Any questions you ask out loud or silently, for example, will be answered, and you won't even know how you knew the answer. This is very strange. It is as though that just by standing at that midway point, we also reach a vast reservoir of hidden knowledge that we didn't even know existed right up until that very moment. It is likely that this huge storehouse of knowledge is, in reality, just our own subconscious mind that is literally filled to the brim with memories and experiences stretching right back to just before we were born. Everything you've ever seen, everyone you've ever met and heard, and or everything you have ever even experienced, even all your forgotten dreams, is all still in there. And when standing at the midway point, we apparently have a direct access to it all. Plus, spend any amount of time there at this midway point, and you will then automatically bring back into waking with you that same feeling of confidence and ease that allowed you to remain in the dream state for as long as you wished. A feeling that can last for several hours afterwards. The waking world will likely also look a little different for a little while afterwards too. The mood of the dreamer is not the same as our more normal mood of when we're awake, and thus one feels kind of detached and rather aloof from the waking world for a little while afterwards. However, and after only a few hours of this, everything eventually returns to normal and you'll feel just like your normal self again. It's like being back home again after having been away for a little while. Once you have learned to handle yourself at the midway point, you can then be said to have fully mastered wilding and can now do and also find out everything you'll ever need to know entirely on your own from then on, and without any help from someone else. This is a real plus genuine achievement in that your awareness has now begun to expand and grow, so well done. In the next tutorial, we'll examine what it is and feels like to wild on a more regular basis, plus the effects this tends to have on our daily waking awareness and selves as well. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this instruction intriguing and inspiring and would like to learn more. In which case, please subscribe to this channel and or check back soon for the next video update in this series. Anyway, bye for now, plus see you soon in part 7, Lucid Dreaming on Demand. See ya!